Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here this Monday morning, July 3rd. Big July 4th coming up tomorrow. All the celebrations, so y'all do be careful. Let's get started with today's show. First, with our weather, brought to us by Gulf Coast Air Conditioning, Drew Pollard, and a hard-working crew taking care of everyday comfort needs. And it's hot, and that's how July is in Florida. It's just hot. Only way to describe it. We're looking at a high today, actually of 91, a low of 79. Water temperature at the end of the city pier is 81 degrees. Take a look at our Monday moon forecast. The phase we're in tonight, guess what? A full moon tonight. So it's going to be very prevalent in your July 3rd and 4th activities. So be careful out there, and you can go coon hunting and don't even need a light with this full moon. All right, tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. Good strong tide today. We're looking at high tide this morning at 9:52 and a low tide this afternoon or later on into tonight at about 9:17. Our wind direction will be coming sort of out of the south at about 8 to 9. Not a bad day to be on the water or out in the woods. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, folks, and welcome to our guests this morning, Mike Mathis of Florida Forestry Service and Elise Nichols. Glad to have y'all.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been on the show before, and I told them I just tickle to get them back because y'all been staying pretty busy.
We have.
Yes, sir.
I know you have. And we have so much to talk about. One of the things, tell us a little bit about what's been going on, just in general.
Well, so, we're talking about the hurricane cleanup and damage and everything else. We've been working hard for 5 years of a transition of trying to clean this stuff up and trying to make everything safe out there. So the first phases were cutting everything out, making emergency access. We had what we call block grant payments for landowners, where we were helping to subsidize some of the timber damage loss and everything else. And now we're into a different phase, which is mostly mitigation.
Okay.
And Elise is going to tell you more about the equipment and the things that she's doing to make defensible space.
Okay.
Yeah. So we received a Raptor 500, and this piece of equipment's capabilities are pretty incredible. It has a huge mulching head on the front of it, so we're able to come in and
Let's show this monster you're talking about. Goodness gracious.
It's truly a tank. So it has a huge mulching head on the front of it, so we can come in and really clean up the dead and down trees left over from Hurricane Michael and create this defensible space, usually anywhere from 50 to 100 feet, just cleaning up the large fuel load on the ground. And we're just, targeting high-risk areas, schools, nursing homes, hospitals, and large residential areas right now is our priority.
Well, yeah, and that makes so much sense because that's the area you want to protect. So you try to get it cleared up. And it's just been, since the storm, I mean, it's just been, I know it's been a nightmare for y'all as far as so much combustible areas.
Yeah, it's like pixie sticks out there, so we just try and get out there and mulch up all of that fuel load on the ground and make that space so that we can get our equipment in there and we can get structure firefighters in there and just protect everything that we have.
That's a good way to describe it, like pixie sticks, just all laying over and everything. And now it's been enough years where it's really dried out. I think about these pine trees, the inside of pine trees are lighter, what we call lighter old timers. That just so combustible and all. Do you see a lot of that, Mike?
We see it burning a little bit more intensely. A lot of times we're in wet areas too, where loggers couldn't pick up the wood and people can't clean up their stuff.
Yeah.
And so we're having a lot of issues with that because more sunlight is hitting the ground. We've got what we call flashy fuel, which is now 5 years old, so it's 5 to 10 feet high, and it's just really burning pretty quick. So
I see. One of the, let's see, we've got another picture here. Now, let's see, this is like a before picture.
Before picture.
A lot of woods. This looks like so many places out in the woods, it's just like that. So you get in there, and after this is the after of the same area.
That's correct. That's actually down off East Avenue there. We just did a big project down there, and the vegetation just grew right up to a lot of homes, that we were able to get in there and get all the snag trees that have snapped and been on the ground and just are a huge fire risk. So we can come in there and clean that up and make that area a little bit safer.
Is there like a certain width that y'all have to do it, or you just do as much as you can? I mean, just there's no particular ground.
We try to get at least a 50-foot buffer, up to 100-foot, just kind of depending on how much space we can get in there and put that buffer in.
My question is, my fun question now, who gets to drive that thing?
I haven't yet, but
well, you want to, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, maybe y'all can do like the Florida Fish Commission. They let us ride with the officers. Maybe y'all let us ride with y'all on one of those things.
Absolutely.
Have you been in it yet, Mike? You been in it?
I haven't driven it yet.
Good discussion.
It does have a cooler in there and backup cameras and all sorts of stuff. So it's top notch.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess one of the big challenges though is when you're picking out places, you just got to make sure that you get in there and thoroughly do it. I mean, it's got to sit there a while, I guess, as it churns it up. Mm-hmm.
It's designed for tough jobs to come in and clear the vegetation and just create these lines and buffers so that we can come in there, and it does a really nice job where it just mulches up everything and spreads it evenly throughout the project site.
In general, I know y'all both went to environmental school and forestry school. As that stuff, it's all churned up and in chips and all. How long does it take to sort of just deteriorate or just on the ground?
Well, the vegetation usually grows back pretty quick, but our strategy in this is just to get the fuel load off the ground, because there's so much of it left over from Hurricane Michael. So
yeah, it stays pretty damp too, won't it, in rainy weather? A layer, how thick would a layer be usually?
It's not as thick as you really think it is.
Really?
It just it spreads it around a lot, but it's kind of like mulch in your yard too. How you're always having to do it every year. Well, it's going to decompose quicker as smaller material is on the ground and things are decomposing.
That's cool. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Sitting here with Elise Maples and Mike Mathis with the Florida Forestry Service. Mike went to the University of Georgia, and you were to Indiana, and your major was environmental
policy.
Environmental policy, and yours is forestry.
Forestry.
Okay.
Management.
And now y'all are experienced and you got a strong background, and you know what you're talking about.
For the most part.
For the most part. Okay, you sent a video. We're gonna try to set this up. This is actually let me see. Tell us what's going on here. We got to get it blown up. Let me see. Okay, here we go now. So tell us what's going on here.
This is just a video showing the defensible space from the structure, how much it was grown up to the structure, and we've come in with our Raptor 500, just mowing down all the vegetation and all the dead and down trees there, just kind of showing a before and an after, how the capabilities of the Raptor.
Wow, that's a good buffer right there between the house and there, so that's cool. How many acres have y'all done so far? Can you got a number on it or something?
So far, collectively and throughout our district, over 300,000 acres has been cleaned up from the storm and reforested. How much we've done with the Raptor, we've probably done well over 50 acres with it. We just received it back in April, and we'll be receiving another Raptor here shortly. So, and we also have 7 contracting crews working on this project. So as we get projects coming in, we just contract them out as soon as we get project plans, and we get the mitigation agreement between Florida Forest Service and the landowner that we can access the property and come in there and put these buffers in.
That's good. And we were talking during the break and all. It's a lot better for everyone if y'all can get like a block. I know individual. A lot of people just have that individual house and all. But I know at this point in time, it's still got it's a lot better to do a large tract. I mean, try to knock out 15, 20 homes at one time.
Right. Our strategy is to target the larger landowners at this point, where we can create more defensible space around larger residential areas and like we discussed before, schools, hospitals, nursing homes, areas that are more challenging to evacuate during an incident.
Yeah.
So that is our target right now for the time being.
So this is, we're halfway through this year, literally halfway through. How many more, the second half of this year, how many more acres do you think you can do, roughly?
We have well over 80 projects, and our crew, as soon as they clean up one project, they're moving to the next. So we're doing our best to keep our contractors busy and our mitigation team busy. And like we just said, we're receiving a second one, so we're going to be very busy cleaning up our district.
Okay, what does our district cover? What counties?
We have 7 counties within our district. We have Walton County, Bay County, Washington County, Holmes County, Jackson County, Calhoun County, and Gulf County.
That's exactly our viewing area. Almost perfect right there. So you cover our viewing area. And when y'all saw this damage and all, I know you went to school and all, were you just shocked and amazed at how many trees have been blown down? I was.
Oh, it's definitely shocking when you even just see the aerial view of it. Just honestly, like we discussed before, it looks like a bunch of pixie sticks laying everywhere. So it is rewarding to be able to get out there and clean up all this fuel load on the ground.
When you were in college, both of y'all are in forestry school, did they anticipate or did they ever teach? I bet they were did not comprehend the damage of a Category 5 hurricane. I bet was that something that was challenging at that time to learn?
It was definitely challenging. I mean, it's an industry thing. You can't just, the way a hurricane acts is a lot of mini tornadoes and just a huge mess, and it twists the trees. So when somebody says they can pick up the lumber and use it, we're really not, because a lot of that is twisted and the fibers are broken and there's not much you can do with it. What they did have was about 6 months to pick it up, what they could, and send it to a mill, but there's only so many mills you can send it to around here. Industry and everything else that limits it.
Well, I know just in general, it was just a big threat when everything dried out, just a big forest. And we've had some big fires, and it was just a lot of times it's just like backyard burning. We'll get to that next segment about that. But I know once it hit, I know y'all were scrambling, and it spread so fast. That's what amazed me watching these fires, how fast they spread. And was it because of this down trees?
Well, definitely our tactics and strategies since Hurricane Michael have changed. We had to send in heavier equipment and almost aerial support every 99% of the time when it's in the hurricane impacted area. Just because of the amount of fuel load on the ground, and when a fire does break out, it's very challenging to put out. So we're seeing, on a 2-acre fire, normally we'd be able to put out, we'd have to push it to 5 acres just to create a nice fire line around it. And
that's interesting. That's what I'm talking about. You have to make adjustments because it's such like I say, fuel load and all. But when y'all are out there, I know you've got so much going on, but can y'all get equipment out there fast enough? I guess that's always a challenge to get equipment out there to the fire. Is that a big deal?
I think our respond time is, still adequate, and we're dispatching. It's our equipment out there. It's just the strategy and the tactics have changed just a little bit when we're responding to the fires.
The guys on the fire also have a knowledge of, you can go ahead and order more tractors. We're not going to try to save money or cost or anything else. We're going to try to send them as quick as we can. So we do order more equipment, usually immediately. We've noticed that. It's heavier equipment, and then air resources, like Elise said.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Okay, we're going to take our final break, and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Sitting here with Elise Maples from Florida Forestry Service, and also Michael Mathis. We're glad to have you all here this morning.
Thank you.
And we're always excited about having them. We've got to mention Andy Cobb. What about my boy Andy? How's he doing?
He's been so busy.
I ran into him the other day. That's how I ended up getting him back on. I said, when y'all going to come back on the show? He said, I'm going to call Elise now. So that's how we got connected back.
Yeah, he actually went to a project with me yesterday to evaluate how much of a buffer we were going to establish on this property. So, occasionally I have to bring him along and help me out. And
It's good to have someone like him. I mean, he talks a lot and everything else. He knows a little bit about it.
Absolutely.
And Andrew was doing some early outdoor education classes, and I love Andy Cobb, and he could hit a softball a mile. Well, right now, good to see you, Andy, and I know you're watching this morning. Okay, now let me do the fishing game times real quick. Brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers. With a full moon tonight, we're only looking at one time today, and it's the same pattern each month. About 12 hours. So we're looking at 12:06 or 2:06 right today, right in the middle of the day, and a full moon tonight. That's how that table works. That's cool. What do y'all enjoy doing in the spare time and outdoor stuff? What kind of outdoor stuff y'all enjoy doing?
I love diving and just being out in the water, paddleboarding. Sailing is one of my favorite hobbies. Snorkeling, anything on the water. So
that's cool.
Let's try to stay out of the heat as much as possible like today, but it's definitely the beach and snorkeling and hiking in the woods.
Yeah. But you enjoy hiking in the woods. And you work in the woods all day, but then you enjoy hiking.
Oh, you got to get away.
That's great. I absolutely love hiking. Okay, we're talking about some other things. What were you mentioning here about the acreage and all? You have some additional things?
Let's see. We've done a lot of aerial surveys and ground surveys to collect this data that we have, and as we discussed earlier, collectively throughout the hurricane impacted area, we've seen over 300,000 acres cleaned up and reforested, and let's see. We have over an additional 50,000 acres has been converted into pasture or just been cleared for other purposes. So we are seeing since Hurricane Michael, areas being cleaned up now that we have the resources to the Raptor and our contracting crews. We can really make a really good impact, and we've seen a good impact throughout our district.
That's great, and we appreciate that. Just as an outdoor community, we appreciate that. I know prescribed burns. We talk about the importance of prescribed burns. Tell us about them, how important it is.
That's another thing that's kind of a natural tool that you could use instead of mechanical equipment. It's a whole lot cheaper to go ahead with a experienced person that can set fire under predicted conditions that make it a lot safer, and it'll clean the woods. It'll get rid of a lot of the dead, dying debris. Mm-hmm. It's not so much necessary in the hurricane areas, what we're having an issue with, because there's so much timber. If it does get out, then it's going to be hard to control it. So on something today, it helps the wildlife. It helps the timber grow. It's got a lot of benefits.
And they call the Forest Service, get a permit, and all this, how you would do it, the process you go through. And,
correct.
That's so important. We've talked about that before. How it does affect the wildlife, how it really does, and protects them, and it also gives them some fresh food. What have you seen as far as talking about wildlife and all? Have you seen it, observing any lesser game or more game since the hurricane? When y'all out in the woods, what do you think? I know
it's really hard to say because now they're hard to see.
They're well hid on it.
Yeah, as we clean up our areas and use our resources to mulch up, all the dead and down trees, we can circle back around and eventually, hopefully, be able to start prescribed burning within the hurricane impacted area after we clean it up. So it'll be a more effective and efficient way of maintaining these lands. So. Certainly after we do prescribe birds, we do see more wildlife. It really helps out a lot.
I know we see the smoke a lot in these prescribed burns. People get all panicky as they call 911, but you can see that Tyndall and over here in Point Washington, you see all these areas and all, and that's what's going on, a controlled burn. Mm-hmm. Is there any way people can know ahead of time? I mean, can they just call and say, is that a controlled burn, and call your office or anything? Or?
They can call our dispatch office just to verify that there's not a wildland fire. And we also have great partnerships throughout our district that are usually posting on their social media pages, and we have a Twitter account that we often post when there is a large controlled burn, if we're doing a large controlled burn. As far as other agencies, if they call in and get a permit, sometimes they'll post it on their own personal page just to inform the public of
That's good.
the burn itself.
I'm going to ask you this question. I always wondered, when the wind's got to be, what do y'all call it off? If the wind is at what level before y'all, if you get out to do a control burn, all of a sudden it gets windy, it's like 8 miles an hour, 6 miles an hour. How do y'all judge that?
Well, it really depends on the fuel load and where you're at.
Okay. So not necessarily the wind that much then, just the fuel on the ground.
It's fuel conditions. When we're talking about a large prescribed burn, it's where we're located, what the hazards are, and all sorts of things. There's a lot of factors that go to it.
I'll go back and show this picture one more time of this machine right here. Have y'all given it a name yet? Have y'all named it?
I'm not sure if our Chipola mitigation team has named it. I
thought it was Raptor 1.
Raptor 1.
Raptor 1. I think you should name it after Andy Cobb, Andy Mobile. It looks a little bit like Andy, don't it? Yeah. Well, that's got to be fun. When y'all get it going good, I want to come out there and maybe shoot some video of it, because that's got to be a fascinating machine to do that.
It's a huge piece of equipment. It sincerely looks like a tank. We have to have a lowboy to cart the Raptor around. So it is a big piece of equipment, but it does get the job done. It has about an 8-foot mulching head on it, so its capabilities are pretty incredible.
And we probably don't get good mileage on that engine either, do you? It probably sucks in that diesel pretty strong. Well, we're going to start wrapping things up. We always appreciate y'all coming on. And in general, what do you tell the public? We're out in the middle of fire season, or right now, what do you think?
Well, right now we got some rains last week. It's getting hot. It's drying out pretty quick, just because of the heat that come this week. But we always encourage landowners to burn safely, watch what they're doing. If they got any questions, call us. We'll be glad to come take a look at it before you burn, or get advice from our dispatch.
All right.
And that number is 850-373-1801.
All right, thank y'all very much. Thank y'all for watching. Do something good for someone else today, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.